Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world today on this December the 8th, 2021. And we got a couple of cases we're about to discuss today. We are on the Crimes and Justice channel, and I want to talk about this Scott Peterson situation. Amazingly, Scott Peterson, the man that killed Laci Peterson during the Christmas holidays at that, guys were around then or alive when this case was going on, when it was in its infancy. You remember that Laci Peterson went missing after taking this is what her husband said. He said she was out taking a walk. Her body was later found about 200 miles south of where her home was. He was later convicted of this. Scott had been having an affair with another woman, and he was not ready to become a father, and he felt that killing Laci was his way out. So he decided he'd kill her while she was 8 months pregnant. He actually took her out on a boat and weighed her body down. About a month or so, maybe a month or two later, Laci's body washed up on the shore, and their baby son, Connor, later washed up just not too far down from where Laci's body had washed up at. And the autopsy was really interesting as far as what was discovered. But it was clear. And then, what was her name? Amber something, the mistress sort of popped out of nowhere. Now, I was going to say, if y'all remember when this case happened, Fox News used to do a lot of coverage on the Laci Peterson case. It was almost like true crime news hour on Fox News during that time. This was before they were always red, Republican, right-leaning, conservative. This was before they turned into just complete politics on Fox News, AKA fixed news. What's up, everybody in the chat? Hey, what's up, Dolly? Hey, Gloria. What's up, Red Vines? All right. So Scott got the death sentence, okay, for killing Laci. He was actually sentenced to death. And amazingly, that death sentence was thrown out. The state Supreme Court, the state of California, the Supreme Court, made a ruling that determined that the jurors who personally disagreed with the death penalty were dismissed. In other words, they're trying to say that it was almost a forced death sentence. It's crazy to me because if it would have been down here in Texas, hey, Centel, babe, if it would have been here in Texas, yeah, he'd still be on death row. I don't know how he's managing to pay for attorneys, because he has been locked up in prison for almost 20 years, almost 2 decades now. He really looks the same, doesn't he? But he is a piece of shit. So his death sentence, he basically got resentenced, okay? He's responsible for the death of his wife and his child, but he's now been resentenced to life in prison. His original sentence, 15 years on, he originally spent 15 years on death row before that sentence was vacated. There was some private phone calls that came out, actually, that really put the nail in the coffin for Scott Peterson. So his life sentence is without the possibility of parole. But I think for Scott and his attorneys, a life sentence without parole is better than a death sentence, right? I wonder what Laci Peterson would have wanted, you know? Y'all, Charles Manson was in prison in California. When has California even executed a inmate? I used to be really, really pro death penalty. I did. I used to be really, really, really pro death penalty. But I've just come to sort of feel over the years in life that it's nobody's right to take another person's life. It especially became a bit of an issue, I don't know, about 10 years or so ago, when Texas, and Arkansas, and Oklahoma, a couple states down here in the South, started using formulas in the concoction that they use in the lethal injection. They started using formulas that they won't even tell the public what's in it. American manufacturers of these drugs that they were using in the lethal injection, they stopped selling and stopped providing these drugs to these various state penitentiary institutions because they didn't want their drugs to be used in lethal injection cases. And then all of a sudden, these various different proprietors that work for the state started reaching out across the pond over there and obtaining these drugs that are used in the lethal injection. The formula changed. And when that formula changed, the proprietors straight up said, we will not tell you what's actually comprised in this formula. It's crazy. And the reason why that's such a big deal is because there has been more than one case, and one of them was back to back too, in which when the lethal injection was administered, it appeared that there was a lot of suffering. A lot of suffering. It's been a lot of questioning about the use of the death penalty and things like that. Now, that's just down here in Texas. Okay, we'll do. Hey, Natalie, I sure will. I'll do that right now. Oh, wow. So, yeah, I mean, that's really all there is to that. I've got videos about the Laci Peterson case. So you can definitely go back and watch those videos where we've actually broke it down and talked about the case in great detail. But yeah, I wanted to let you guys know.
This is your living room / yoga shanti / regional office.
Oh, I hate that. Let's see what's going on here.
Changes in the middle of an investigation into phony threats on social media. They've already expelled a student, and police say criminal charges are coming next.
Our Marcelino Benito live outside the campus in Northwest Harris County with the very latest. Marcelino.
Hey, Big Puss.
Guys, these threats led to hundreds of absences over the course of the last 2 days. Today, investigators say they are working to learn more about these threats, and they consider them serious, with serious consequences.
It's very disturbing.
Klein ISD Police Chief David Kimberly says the anonymous shooting threats against Klein Cane High started coming in Monday evening on Snapchat. Tuesday, things escalated.
This new threat went viral just like that. It was as if somebody flipped a light switch, because we went from everybody in class changed everything well, to me having 400 parents at the front of the building.
A mass exodus. Parents started pulling their kids out of school by the hundreds.
I see our parents come up with the fear and the panic in their eyes because, again, social media has morphed this into something that it's not.
With the help of the FBI and Precinct 4 Constable's Office, Klein ISD police zeroed in on who was responsible, IDing a Klein Cain student.
And within 20 minutes, we had people at that door.
The student's been expelled and could soon face criminal charges, at a minimum for making a terroristic threat.
This is lifelong. This is not going to go away in a month or 6 months. This can be potentially life-changing.
Although the threats are not deemed credible, security has been beefed up at Klein Cain, and it will remain high. More officers, a dedicated canine unit, and now backpacks no longer allowed, at least through the end of the semester.
This is not a prank. This is not a joke. This is not something to get more likes or more shares. This is not a way to become a social media, one of those influencer type people. This is not the way to do this, because you might get notoriety, but it's not going to be the kind of notoriety you're looking for.
I couldn't tell. I've been telling.
Investigators tell me at this hour they are still combing through that student's cell phone, looking for more possible evidence to possibly enhance any further charges. The police chief also wants to stress tonight that parents and students, if they happen to come across any other social media threats, not to share them, not to retweet them, but to contact law enforcement or campus administrators right away. Guys?
Yeah, we've seen this happen before, Marcelino, in light of the fact that there was a school shooting at a Michigan high school that left 4 students dead a little more than a week ago. Anyone you talked to today mentioned that incident as a concern there?
Well, Len, I asked the chief that very question. He said, absolutely. What happens in other parts of the country when it comes to these school shootings definitely plays a role. For one, it leaves a space for parents to feel a lot more fear about their students and what's happening on these campuses. But perhaps most importantly,
I guess they thought they were going to send death
it
threats
creates a space for
anonymously,
students to feel like they can make these threats, spread them on social media. That creates more problems for officers because they have to follow all these leads. Most of them, if not all of them, lately at this campus have led nowhere. They're not credible, but they have to investigate each and every.
It's crazy because these people really think that they can issue these threats anonymously on the internet, not realizing that it's not hard to track you down. It really isn't. It's like, damn, gas station clerk shot in the face without warning. What the hell? But yeah, it's kind of crazy that people do weird ass stuff like that. That's very scary, Natalie. Really? Now the FBI was first to know, not police, not the district. Wow. Wait, what did I say, y'all? What did I say? Oh, big puss. What's up, baby? Oh my goodness. So, okay. Well,
Morning, shooting the clerk point blank in the face.
Cold.
Marcelo Benito is hearing from the victim's family tonight and has the latest on how he is doing.
Len and Mia, one look at this surveillance video, and it is clear this gunman had zero regard for human life. Tonight, his family tells me their loved one is still in the hospital, still in critical condition, with a bullet lodged in his neck.
Wow.
HPD robbery detectives want you to take a good look at this video. You see the suspect walk up to the counter, pull out a gun, and aim it at the young clerk's head. What happened next? Too graphic to show you on television. The gunman pulled the trigger. The clerk falls to the ground. The video picks up again as the suspect barrels through the opening to get behind the counter. He shoots the clerk again in the hand and then beats on him before turning his attention to the cash register, which he wasn't even able to open.
This is the shocking
oh, wow, you guys. Wow. I'm almost glad this came up while we were sitting here talking. I didn't realize there while we were looking at the video that this is the clerk. This is the suspect here. If you guys recognize this individual, definitely
But an attack
call
against a
police.
convenience
Call
store clerk.
911.
A robber opens fire without
That's not
warning,
cool, man.
shooting the clerk point blank in the face.
That's not
Marcelo
cool.
Benito is hearing from the victim's family tonight and has the latest on how he is doing.
Len and Mia, one look at this surveillance video, and it is clear this gunman had zero regard for human life. Tonight, his family tells me their loved one is still in the hospital, still in critical condition, with a bullet lodged in his neck. HPD robbery detectives want you to take a good look at this video. You see the suspect walk up to the counter, pull out a gun, and aim it at the young clerk's head. What happened next? Too graphic to show you on television. The gunman pulled the trigger. The clerk falls to the ground. The video picks up again as the suspect barrels through the opening to get behind the counter. He shoots the clerk again in the hand and then beats on him before turning his attention to the cash register, which he wasn't even able to open.
This is the shocking thing. He doesn't even demand anything. He just goes right up to him and just shoots him right in the head. It's crazy. I just can't believe it.
Minutes later, you see the clerk somehow managed to run out of the store and get help. It all happened at this Chevron off Memorial in the West Loop. Tonight, the store owner says the clerk's been working here for 6 months. His family tells us he's alert and talking, and despite being shot in the face, is expected to survive.
Wow.
As for the man in the video, he remains on the loose. HPD says he drove off in a black 2-door Mercedes-Benz.
Wow.
If you have any information about this man's whereabouts, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers. That number 713-222-TIPS. And if you'd like to get another look at that video in its entirety, we have it up for you right now on KHOU.com.
That's crazy. That's nuts. That's so... Hopefully the clerk will be okay. He's still in critical condition. I made some zuppa toscana today. I don't cook with salt intentionally. I don't like putting salt in my food. I like to let people, put the salt that they want to put on their food. I think I put a little bit too much, but I did. I got this this fresh salt from Central Market. It's fresh garlic salt, where they it's like $2, and they make they weigh out like a couple grams of it. And it's just a little bit too salty for me. That's kind of interesting. But anyway, shout out to zuppa toscana, one of my favorite meals. The other thing I wanted to talk about, Jussie Smollett, the Jussie Smollett case. Really what I want to discuss is these weird comments that seem to be coming from these judges that seem to be racist as fuck. Let me show y'all what I'm talking about. Hold that thought. He's finally facing trial. Cash App's coming up, ain't they? Are you serious? I waited for all that and you're not even gonna... 1 second. So basically, Jussie Smollett is on trial in Chicago, right? He's on trial in Chicago. And the jury is now currently deliberating. He's facing 6 felony charges. And there was, well, here, I'll let y'all hear it. I don't even have to say it, but check this out. There's something really weird going on with the prosecution.
Closing arguments shift to defense at Jussie Smollett's trial for reporting an allegedly staged hate crime on himself. Jussie Smollett's attorney said in closing arguments of the actor's criminal trial Wednesday that the prosecution's case was riddled with doubts and built on the testimony of two brothers who are criminals and certified liars. The entire prosecution case was built like a house of cards, attorney Nanai Uche told jurors at the outset of his remarks. And we all know what happens to a house of cards when you apply a little pressure. It crumbles. Uche said the brothers, Abimbola and Olabinjo Osendero, are sophisticated liars and criminals who lied on the witness stand to save themselves from charges they beat up Smollett on a frigid night in downtown Chicago in January 2019. Prosecutors have alleged Smollett actually hired the brothers to commit the fake hate crime in a bid to get media attention and pressure the Empire studio to take his security concerns seriously. But Uche told the jury they can't believe what the Osenderos say.
Hey,
You have to
Diving, how
have
are
your guard
you?
up with them mentally,
We're
emotionally,
looking at this
even
Jussie
spiritually,
Smollett.
Uche said.
Hold on, look at those
They are highly
thighs,
intelligent,
though.
really smart, and they know how to dumb it
Listen.
down so you think they're victims.
Them thighs.
Before Uche began, the jury heard from Special Prosecutor Dan Webb, who said Smollett not only committed a crime by falsely reporting a hate crime, what he did was just plain wrong.
Wow.
Webb also told the jury that Smollett lied repeatedly during his 2 days on the witness stand, tailoring his testimony to fit certain aspects of the evidence. Webb spoke for just under 2 hours before wrapping up at 11:15 a.m. He began his remarks by telling jurors the allegations against Smollett were relatively simple. He falsely reported a fake hate crime to the Chicago Police Department as a real hate crime. We have proven this by overwhelming evidence, Webb said. Not only is what Smollett did a crime, Webb said, beyond that it's just plain wrong to just outright denigrate something as serious as a hate crime. Webb said it was particularly egregious for Smollett to make sure his plan had words and symbols emblematic of this country's racist past,
I really
including
hate
the
he did
noose and the
this. this.
use of the N-word.
I really
He
hate
also
he did
said
this.
Smollett's false allegations cost the police enormous resources to investigate. Webb said prosecutors have overwhelming evidence corroborating that the two key witnesses, brothers Abimbola and Olabinjo Osendero, told police the truth about Smollett's plan to pay them to commit the hoax beating, yell racial and homophobic slurs, pour bleach on him and put a makeshift noose around his neck. Smollett tailored his testimony to fit what he couldn't deny, like surveillance footage, and lie about the rest, Webb said. He said Smollett's initial story to police that one of his attackers appeared to be white was all part of the hoax. If I say it was whites, that makes it more real, Webb says. It gives it more credibility that it was a hate attack.
You got to see how Fox News is doing
Smollett
this trial.
testified Tuesday that he didn't know who attacked him and that he only got a look at one assailant
Look at Fox.
who was wearing a ski mask. Webb argued it was ludicrous for him to say that, since
Former
there's
Empire
been
actor
copious
Jussie Smollett,
evidence.
after testifying yesterday in his own defense,
Look how that
he stands
Fox
accused
News
of
is
staging a
acting.
racist
Look at
attack
that
on himself.
title.
Next hour, both sides are set to give their closing arguments
Fox
in the
News is a
case,
bunch of
putting his
assholes,
fate in the
y'all.
hands of a jury. Let's bring in Leo Terrell, civil rights attorney and Fox News contributor. So,
Guaranteed
as they go into
right-wing
closing
leaning
arguments, who do you think
conservatives.
has the upper hand? And has his team been able to sow reasonable doubt about whether this was a hoax?
I think the prosecution has the upper hand. Dana, I'll tell you right now, the defense, Jesse's team only wants one juror. They want one juror for a mistrial so he can basically claim vindication because that's what he wants. His story is unbelievable. The only person who believes the story of Jussie Smollett is his family and Jussie Smollett. It is a false narrative.
Wow.
And Dana, more importantly, he's made a mockery of the civil rights laws. Those laws were there to protect people who were true victims. Jussie Smollett is not a true victim.
Well, one of the entities that did believe him initially was the media. Let's take a look back at how they initially covered it.
I don't like that it's being put out there in the media that this is a possible hate crime.
There are a lot of questions in this case, but I know Jussie Smollett is a really, really good guy. I just want justice to be served in this case.
And the media has really cast so much doubt on his story, which I find so personally offensive.
He's given a detailed account, an account that Chicago police have said has been consistent. He hasn't changed his story. They also said it's credible. Police have said that, and also that he has been very cooperative.
And since then, it almost seems like the media is kind of reluctant to cover the story in this trial, which is a doozy.
Let me hit
They're
dislike on this
embarrassed.
shit.
They're totally embarrassed. I mean, you look at that interview Robin Roberts did, it was embarrassing. And she won't even acknowledge it. Don Lemon is trying to cover the story, yet he had personal involvement. The left does not care about the truth. It's their narrative. They wanted a anti-Trump, to divide this country based on race. And it's shameful. And it's overwhelming evidence that when the left does not get what they want, they will ignore it, Dana. And that's what they're doing. They're ignoring
So what do you call it when they're right?
They were absolutely wrong.
Does the fuck
I
shit
don't know if
they
we know
do?
enough about the Don Lemon connection, because I could
Why does the
imagine,
left have
since you did
anything to
know
do
him,
with
he
what
was
Jussie
perhaps
Smollett
trying
decided
to
to
get
do?
more information about the story,
This
but
weird
we'll let him
attack.
decide that. I did want to quote this from Kyle Smith. He writes at National Review. Everyone should read his columns. He wrote, "Who can believe one word Jussie Smollett says? Smollett compared the attack to a Looney Tunes cartoon, and I think we know who the Wile E. Coyote of this saga is." Now, Kyle Smith also writes for the New York Post, and that's where you can find that. The rest of the column is
Wow, they
hilarious.
basically
and I
say Jussie
encourage people to
Smollett's
read it.
a
How long do you think the jury will
certified
deliberate?
liar.
Well, I'll tell you right now, they're going to do closing arguments. The trial was no more than 2 weeks. I will submit to you, Dana, that you will have a verdict probably Friday, if possible, no later than Monday. Jurors do not want to go through the weekend, so don't be surprised if
Do you
you
think
get
they have that much
a
time,
jury
that much to
verdict
discuss?
Friday.
Do you think they have that much to think about?
No, I'll tell you right now, let me be very clear. It's going to be one. Jussie Smollett has only one hope. He's looking for one juror to nullify the verdict. Because I would submit to you that 10 or 11 jurors believe that he basically made this story up. I'm thinking one juror.
All right, Leo Terrell.
No, I
great.
cannot with these people. I cannot. So he had a sexual relationship with the prosecution
During
witness?
cross-examination, and Jussie Smollett, for one, denied tampering with the news seen around his neck after the alleged hate crime
Oh,
attack
my
in January
Lord.
2019 to make it look like a more serious lynching. However, he did tell jurors that he took that news off.
Man, I can't tell you how fucking offensive that is, especially being from Texas. As recently as the early 1900s, even going into the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. There's towns down here in Texas. I can look at East Texas. There are some towns there in which I know that Washington said no more of the forcing whites and blacks to go to their own school type shit, segregation. Just because they said no more segregation did not mean that schools actually followed up or did what Washington told them. Texas schools, I know where I'm from out in East Texas, they were still segregated. When my husband was in school, I am not kidding you. My husband is a little over 50 now. It's crazy, y'all. But if you even look back to like all the lynchings and racist attacks and shit like that, there was a horrible attack that happened to a man in Paris. He was lynched, burned to death. It was a whole fucking fucked up public lynching. The same place where they lynched that man 50, 60 years later, all of us would go to that same park on Sunday afternoons. Y'all know how it is. And, you do the club on Friday night, Saturday night, and on Sunday, you walk, MLK or whatever. That's what we did growing up. Well, that would have been in Paris or even deeper in the country, you know. But to sit there with a noose around your neck, I would think in a natural way, just naturally, if someone was to attack somebody and put a damn noose behind or over their neck, it would seem to be a natural thing to take that off, you know? Hey, Astro Kid, how are you doing? You know, it's funny that it does sort of seem like MSM, mainstream media, is not really covering this case, though, you know? Chicago Tribune is. Don Lemon at CNN is.
At one point, but put it back on before police got there because he and his manager agreed that police should see the evidence. He later said right after that it looked less like a noose once he had put it back on the second time. Smollett was also asked about why he didn't turn his cell phone over to police in the initial investigation after the alleged hate crime attack. And the prosecutor specifically pressed him, asking if it was because he
Listen, it's really offensive to try to do a Black Power and you pulled a whole fucking MAGA stunt there. A whole MAGA stunt prank. Everybody knows that you were behind this, Justy. There's no reason. I mean, the fact that he would even take this to trial is amazing to me. It's amazing to me. I don't think he's going to win this, y'all. I'm just saying.
Was worried that it would show extensive communications with Bola Osendero in the days leading up to the alleged hate crime attack. And Smollett simply said no, because at that point, Bola was not a factor in any sort of issue at the time, Don.
You know, it's really risky to put a defendant on the stand. Why did the defense do that? And what were they trying to prove, Omar?
Well, for one, they were trying to push back on some of the major points in the prosecution's case. For one, they went back, or Smollett took jurors back to
think about all of the energy and cycles and all this stuff being burnt. You know, when Jussie Smollett came out and went public about this attack, the very night that it happened, he had mainstream media behind him. Bloggers were behind him. You know, it was almost like a slam dunk. And then all of a sudden, the stuff started dropping out. Well, they're saying he faked it. You know, why would he sit there for an hour with a noose around his neck? Why would he do this? Wait a minute. He has a photo with one of the guys that was supposed to have attacked him?
The car ride where the Osendero brothers had testified was when Smollett first brought up this alleged scheme, and the defense attorney asked him if that's what happened, and Smollett said no.
Pretty much the people that he hired to perform this stunt has turned on him and has testified against him, and he had a sexual relationship with one of those men.
All they did was drive around and smoke blunts. Now, when the defense attorney specifically pushed and smoked blunts. Now, when testified was when.
Wait a minute. Anybody want to tell him that his voice does not match him? Did he say smoke blunts?
When Smollett first brought up this alleged scheme, and the defense attorney asked him if that's what happened, and Smollett said no, all they did was drive around and smoke blunts. Now, when the defense attorney specifically pushed in and said at any point in time, did you talk to Bola Osendero about a hoax? He answered emphatically no. And Smollett said that he would do this routinely, drive around smoking, sometimes do it by himself, with Bola too many times to count, were his words. And then separately, after an alleged hate crime letter was sent to Empire Studios about a week.
Oh, look at Don's face. Look at Don Lemon's face. He's like, my only thing is like, Don, don't let him take you for a ride. You're going to have to like stay straight to the point. Like, Don't even venture too far to the left or too far to the right. Seriously, though.
Prior, Smollett said he was offered
said
security
smoke
but
blunts.
refused it.